Well, it's good to be back talking football again with you guys. As always, the cliches of great off season. The guys look good. Hold true again. I think Ivan Lewis and his crew have done a tremendous job with our guys. They look in great shape. Excited to get on the field with them this afternoon and crank it up. Some things of note. Matt Lyons has decided to transfer from the University of Washington. Dwayne Washington is still under review with the NCAA to get qualified, and Corey Littleton has been cleared by the NCAA. So those are the only real updates on that front. I will just say in general about our team, year 4, I feel like we're becoming a more mature football team. I know sometimes the age is the age issue, and we don't have many seniors and all of those things, but I think we have experience, and sometimes experience outweighs age. And we've had a lot of guys that have played quite a bit of football for us since their true freshman, true sophomore years that are now in their junior season or sophomore season, that experience that we can rely on. I really feel like this is a tight-knit group, probably our closest, tightest team that we've had, where the last 4 classes have come in together with the sole purpose of winning a championship, and have been recruited by myself and the coaches on this staff. And so there seems to be a sense of urgency, a focused group with a purpose, and maybe a little bit of a chip on the shoulders, which isn't a bad thing at all. I think that this group has got the leadership in place. Obviously, when you've got your returning quarterback coming back in Keith Price, the leadership in place to embrace the philosophies and beliefs that we have and that we believe in, and that's playing hard and playing fast with an attitude, but yet playing smart and understanding the special situations of the game, playing with a very high football IQ. And so we'll lean on the likes of Keith and Desmond, Sean Parker, Drew Schaefer, those types of guys for their experience and their leadership to help guide some of our younger players as they get used to the program. I don't think from the naked eye you'll see much different from training camp as far as things that we've done in the past. There'll be some things along the way that'll be a little bit different from a focus standpoint or what we're working on in that aspect of it a little bit. We'll continue some of the themes that we had in spring ball, with a lot more competition, one-on-one competition drills that we did more of then. I think on the back end, one area where definitely different for us is we've gone totally digital from a playbook standpoint. Everything is on the iPad now, which I know the players embrace. Obviously, we're cutting down on the big notebooks, but also I think it's something that they relate to. This is a digital world that we're living in, and I think the players probably understand the iPads better than we do and how to operate them and get from page to page and all that stuff. So that's so far so good, and really excited to get on the field with them. It's been, you make the changes that we made from a staff standpoint. You recruit the players that you recruit. You lose players to graduation. New leaders emerge. And like I've said every year, the beauty of training camp is every year is different. And I know there's a lot of familiar faces on our roster, but as players mature, as they get more experience, leaders are formed, and through that comes a new personality every year. And this team will take on a new personality than any other team that we've had. And that's what training camp's about. It's about coming together and working with one another. It's about fighting through the blood, sweat, and tears, enjoying the laughter, enjoying the smiles, and inevitably coming together as one for a common goal, and that's to win a championship.
Coach, you've since last year, obviously, you had a transition staff-wise that you haven't gone through as a head coach before. Can you talk a little bit about what you might have done different to prepare for that and how that's changed things at all?
Well, just trying to get to know these guys is one of the biggest things. When you bring in new coaches, it's really getting to the core of it and who they are and what they represent and their style in which they coach, and how they relate to the players and how they relate with one another, how they relate with me, and get them to embrace the uniqueness of the University of Washington, what makes this place so special. And so I've really tried to attach myself to them and instill the confidence in them of why we wanted to hire them and why they're here. So maybe that's a little bit different, where I'm just been focused on what I needed to do for me and for the program, but trying to reach out a little bit more to you know, letting people know that this is a great place and that we're all fortunate and honored to be part of it. And I think that has really helped the messaging to our team as well. And we've got new coaches in the strength staff. We've obviously got new players in our program. And you go back 4 years, you know, and you inherit a football team, and you try to piece together a recruiting class there, and you got new coaches coming in. There's so many things to get done. Well, now I've got our leaders on this team who have been here for 4 years, who are recruited by us. The messaging, the philosophies are second nature to them. It's who they are. It's what they've become. And so now when you bring in new coaches, it's to get them integrated as quickly as possible so that their beliefs are aligned with mine and with the players. And so that's what the biggest change has been.
Can you talk a little bit about the incoming freshmen and how they've done throughout the league program? And
they did great in school. You know, I think our lowest grade of all the players in LEAP was a 3.2. I think it was an average of almost a 3.5 for the entire group, which is amazing. It's a great job by Kim Duran and her staff. It's the best ever that's ever been here. So really proud of them that way. I feel like the reports I've gotten from campus are that they've been respectful, they're humble, they're hungry, they want to get on the field and go play. And so time will tell. You know, it's a hard one to answer today. It'll probably be hard to answer in the next 2 or 3 days until we really get going and they have to fight through adversity. But I do know they're a good-looking group. They're you know, excited to be here and proud to be part of the program.
In terms of health, is there anybody then who's not going to be able to go this week?
No, you'll see everybody go. I mean, Feeney will be going, Sample's going, Tanagawa's going. He'll be limited some, but he'll be out there. Tafunga will be going. You'll see a little brace on his hand. Deontay Cooper's cleared to go, so you'll see him going out there today. The one kid who won't be completely cleared is Ryan McDaniel, who's still in the stages of recovery from the ACL that won't get him fully cleared. He'll be able to do some stuff. Cooper Pallure is the other one who's out, and that's been known, had the shoulder surgery. And then Kevin Smith, you'll see he'll have a gold jersey on, which will be limited. I guess that would be the other change. Instead of the injured guys wearing red jerseys, they'll be wearing gold jerseys like the quarterbacks. And they should have their number on so you can identify them. And that just basically means that they're non-contact. So Kevin Smith, you'll see him in running routes. You'll see him in some 7-on-7 a day. We won't have him going in full team, but he's made a great recovery so far.
You mentioned Deontay. Then, what's realistic for him to expect right now? Then
we don't know. You know, we're kind of in uncharted waters with Deontay at this point. He's going to get in. We're going to monitor him closely. But I think it's important for him, not only physically, but from a mental standpoint, from a psyche standpoint, that he gets into the flow of it. And obviously we're not going to try to give him 20 carries today, but he's going to get enough exposure to football to where he can start getting comfortable again.
You mentioned back in April the concern with all the touchdowns you lost with Chris Paul and the receivers. Do you feel better about that with what you've seen in spring practice, or is it going to have to go all the way to games until you feel replace them?
I haven't seen them yet. You know, I mean, that's a hard question. I know we do this press conference to kick off training camp. It's hard to answer the what ifs, you know, and I hate you know, making statements that I don't have the answers to yet. And so what I do know is that we have some players on our roster who expectations and the levels of expectations have risen, just as our program has. And whether that's Kaysen, whether that's Austin, whether that's James Johnson, whether it's some of the newer players that are coming into the program, if it's Jesse or Bishop, I know the standard for which the bar that we're setting for them is higher, and it's higher from there within. But I don't know if I'll feel better about it until I actually start seeing guys making those plays and creating those touchdowns and all those things. And hopefully we can put that to ease sooner rather than later, like a lot of the questions that we have in training camp.
Your quarterback on a what if is Keith Price. What does he mean to this team and the comfort level he gives you?
You know, it's always beneficial when you've got a returning quarterback, especially when, from an age standpoint, you've got some youth on your football team. I think Keith has a great deal of confidence in himself. He's a tremendous leader. we've all seen his ability, what he brings to practice and the way he practices. I think that Keith has put in the time, and I think his teammates recognize that. He's over 200 pounds now. I mean, this guy he just continues to get stronger and look better and better and better, and that's a tribute to Ivan and his staff, but also to Keith, to understand you can go out and have a great year, but how am I going to get better? And what am I going to do to take the next step to get better? And I think Keith has identified where he can, and he's addressing those things.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Shaq? We had Dustin Glenn here a couple of weeks ago, and he doesn't look like he's ready to give up the starting position quite yet.
Again, these are the what-ifs. You know, he's here, he looks in shape, he cleared his physical, but you got to give me a couple days. You know, I don't know. I don't know exactly what we're getting. We're going to put him out there in different scenarios and different situations, just like all of our freshmen will. And you're going to see Brandon Beaver and Cleveland Wallace back there. You're going to see Darian Washington. All four of those guys are going to get their shots. In 3, 4, 5 days, I'll probably be able to answer that one a little bit better.
Did you ever talk with them about inability to hit the slider?
We haven't got there yet. We're just making sure we cover the seam route today. So.
Steve, in the semantics of how you're going to conduct fall camp, what have you learned the first 3 years that might change this year?
This is a building process. You know, I think sometimes your first year you want to come in and it's a big first meeting, rah-rah speech, you know, and well, this is a long month, you know, and this, you know, not that we weren't fired up to go last night, not that I wasn't, but man, you save some things now, I think, for week 2, week 3 when that grind is going, you know, and so I think we were a bit more efficient with our time and our administrative meetings. I think the messaging was clear. We didn't have too much for them to focus on, but that there's going to be messaging that's going to get given to them as we move forward throughout this camp that maybe in the past we would have tried to give them to it all at once, and you miss some of it. So we're going to break it up a little bit as we go, and I think that just comes from growing and hopefully learning.
See, with your freshmen, does your use of them or your thoughts about going into this camp change now that you're in your 4th season, you're starting to build some depth? Do you think about redshirting more guys? Or?
Well, you know, it's unique. Chris, I think it was 2 years ago we played 16 true freshmen, which I think was the most in the country, us in Florida. And then you look at last year, I think we played 4, and one of those might have been James Sample, who got his year back, you know. So I like to think that that's the sign of the times of where we're headed. I do know that I will never not play a kid just because he's a freshman. You know, the best guys on the field are going to play for us, but I know it's harder for our freshmen to get on the field now than it was before. I think we've recruited the type of athletes that fit our schemes, that have the personal makeup, the competitive nature that we love, the unique and special qualities that they possess. And so I think it's getting harder for them to get on the field, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to give them the opportunity to show what they can do. And if they're the best player for the spot to make us the most successful team, then they'll earn that job. And you ask any senior, junior, sophomore, freshman on a roster, they get it. The best guys are going to play, and that's what makes the competition so unique.
Coach, you talked at Pac-12 Media Day about this being the first time since you've been here that these are all guys you recruited. I just wondered how really important is that in terms of your system, your way of doing things in the big picture? Well,
there's 5 other guys, but the cool thing about those 5 other guys are we've been in some pretty good battles together, and we've had some pretty intimate moments together, and so I think they recognize what it's all about too. The key to it is the consistent messaging from day one, that these guys step on our campus, they're hearing the same things over and over and over again, and it's ingrained in them until it becomes them. And I think that we're seeing that. And what happens is then your leaders, the talk in the locker room is what we say. And so my messaging can be something even beyond that because they're already speaking that way together collectively. And that's definitely occurred. And I'm proud of that. You know, as a coach, there's little nuggets along the way that you get proud of. And when your guys are speaking your language, when they're speaking your lingo, when it's not coach talk, it's locker room talk, that's when I think you can really make strides. And we're definitely getting that from our veterans down through our younger players. And that's why it's so important. And what these guys came here to do was a consistent message in recruiting as well, and that's ultimately win a championship and get a world-class degree from a tremendous institution, and live in an amazing community in the city of Seattle, where the support for Husky football is second to none. So they're all here for the same reasons, and they all have a really cool edge to them that is a competitive nature within them. That is the first thing we look for in recruiting, and they all fit that criteria. And when you bring all that together, it creates an environment that I'm proud to be able to say we put that together, and now let's see what we can do with it.
From a logistics standpoint, you know what you have with Keith, but your backup quarterback spot is open. How are you going to go forward in terms of snaps for these kids?
No, good question. You're going to really see the next three guys pretty extensively. You're going to see Derek Brown still. You're going to see Siler Miles. You're going to see Jeff Lindquist, and we're really going to give Siler and Jeff as much as we can, especially early, to get a gauge for where they are. It's always tough to tell a high school kid what they really did at quarterback. You know, it's a difficult deal. So we're going to give them as much as we can. You're going to see them, and by no means try to diminish what Keith is doing. We need him to continue to get better as well. So everything is thoughtfully, laid out so that we know exactly who's getting what reps, how many reps, against what looks, so that we can get a gauge for how they handle pressure or zone or the run game, the pass game, all those things.
I remember Siler, he may have had a surgery right around signing day.
Right. He looks, he appears great. Again, we'll see today. He'll be rolling out of the pocket today, one of the first things we do. So he says he feels great. He's been fully cleared, ready to go. So I wouldn't expect any setbacks, but we'll watch it.
You're going to practice in the morning once the season starts?
Yes.
Was there a thought to try to have these practices in the morning? Or?
Well, we do walkthroughs in the morning. So we're actually out in the morning. You guys just don't get to be there.
Steve, how are you going to determine your running back spot? Is there something in particular that you need to see from these guys for them to win the job, or do you anticipate carries?
It's everything, Elise. There's going to be days when certain guys are going to get the bulk of the carries, and it might be Jesse one day or Bishop another, to see how they can handle 20 carries of practice or 25 carries of practice, how they respond physically. Obviously, their ability to do things right. We have to technically, fundamentally be sound at that spot. Who can respond to the special situations within the game, and who responds to the third down, to the red zone stuff, to the 2-minute stuff, the short yardage goal line thing. So we're going to gather as much information as we can individually, but also how they fit into the grand scheme of what we're trying to do. I will say this about both those two kids, Jesse and Bishop. They've both been diligent in their preparation, and they've got a real sense of seriousness about them, I guess, to say the least. And that not being said, that doesn't mean they don't have a lot of fun doing what they do. As we all know, Jesse, he's one of the funnest guys on our practice field. But there's a real sense of this is our time. And then Deontay's back going. Eric Wilson's going to be in the mix here as we get going. Desden Petty. So we're going to have to, just like the quarterback spot, there's going to be certain days, certain drills. Some guys are going to get featured more than others, so that we can gather as much information as we can.
Do they have similar styles?
A little bit. Jesse, obviously, he's kind of the jack of all trades. He's done so much for us in the last couple of years that we have a pretty good idea of who he is. I want to see what he looks like with extensive carries. I know what he is on a couple carries here and there, but what he looks like extensively. Bishop, I thought had a great spring, and again, we're just still going to try to gather as much information as we can.
On defense, Steve, you're going to face teams obviously that want to spread you out with really fast tempo, and then you're going to play other teams, at least Stanford, that want to play 7 offensive linemen and I guess pro styles in the middle. Because of such a disparate range of schemes, do you change your approach at all relative to a few years ago? Sure,
you got to be able to handle it all, and I think that's where our depth is starting to kick in. Hugh, we've to get Jamora back, surely the 3-4 hybrid 4-3 stuff, Fellner's versatility, some of these young guys, we're going to need all that. And I think that's the real tribute to Justin and what he brings, his ability to do it all, but do it in a fashion where the guys have confidence doing it.
See, what did the new defensive staff learn about your players on that side of the ball? spring after reviewing everything they did?
Probably, I think one of the things was, I would say, let's go with a few things, and not maybe in any particular order. One, these guys are competitive, you know, and they responded to the challenges that the new staff presented to them. They were extremely competitive this spring. We saw that in the spring game, especially our ability to believe that we're going to make plays, especially in the back end in our one-on-one matchups, and the competitive nature they brought. Two, that were probably a little bit more talented than what they first thought coming in. And three, the consciousness that our guys have to want to do things right and to want to learn and want to be sound. And you know, with that, I think collectively there's a real willingness on our entire football team, and not just on defense, but there's a real willingness. And I've said that quite a bit about our guys, but man, we've got a team where these guys do whatever we ask, and they do it 110 miles an hour, and they have a blast doing it. And that hasn't changed, and I don't think that'll ever change. I think that's just the makeup of the personality of the kids on this roster. And I think that the end result from our new coaches on the defensive staff was what they were most impressed with. And those other things fall underneath that. Their willingness to play with an attitude, to play competitive, to want to learn, to want to get better. All those things is really their willingness, and I think that's what impressed them the most. Excuse me.
For your defensive players adjusting to new coaches or even new positions, how much of a benefit is it to be on the quarter system and have to kind of deal with classes here?
I think it helps. I think it helps that, you know, that you can focus on the game of football and not have to deal with the school right away. The downside of that is we're 4 games into the season, then bam, here comes 15 units, right, and all the stuff, and you know, over 37,000 kids on campus. So it's great now, but we've come to find out we've dealt with the downside of it, the effects of it mid-season as well. And so it's something that we'll continue to address. I thought we did a much better job last year of addressing it. So we reaped the benefits a little bit through camp in the first couple of games, but we have to understand that here it comes here. You know, the week we play Stanford this year, school start, and how we handle it those first few weeks is going to be big.
Do you feel like your guys kind of get more film exposure and August, things like that than other schools?
You know, I don't know. I don't know necessarily that. Training camp's training camp, and we all live under the same guidelines and rules. Where our players, I think, have a little bit, what helps them is after those games get going, those first couple games of the year, where some guys are reading, studying, whatever, our guys have the ability to pull out an iPad now and watch film or look at their playbook on their iPad, and we can send them information that way, where they necessarily don't have to come to our offices. We can shoot it to them, you know, however that happens. Somebody smarter than me could tell me how that works, but that I think is the one advantage. But there is the downside to it that you get burnt out too. You know, that it's all football. So we really don't try to overload them. We try to keep them in a level of state where they love the game. They continue to love the game even through the tough times. And so if you try to overload them, they could lose their passion for it.
You mentioned the offensive line, Tryon Drew at left tackle a little bit. How much of that would we see then?
You'll see it quite a bit today. Again, it's about gathering information, and you can't gather information until you see it and you do it. You know, so you know, we'll see what it looks like. It'll probably take us 3 to 5 days to really get some good information. Especially we got to get into pads and all those things, and so you know, we'll be out there in our underwear today, like to call it, and running around and playing flag football or whatever. So it's going to take a little time, but hopefully we can gather some good information early on to where we can make a really sound, you know, decision here in the next 7-10 days about where we're headed.
What are the guys in the offseason who maybe just really stepped it up since spring that we should keep an eye on out there today and really developed?
You know, I'll continue on the theme with Michael Harvickson. I think has been tremendous. I think in turn he's helped Austin. Austin looks great. Sean Parker, another one, looks really good. Sorry, I'm going down the list here, guys. Connor Creed, really improved. Talia looks great, as good as he's ever looked. Sorry, John Timu looks fantastic. I mean, he looks awesome. Looks great. I've mentioned Keith already. I think what he looks like and what what he's put into this thing. Andrew Hudson is a guy. I'm sorry, I'm remiss if I skipped over him, but he's up to almost 250 pounds now. He looks tremendous. The thing you remember about Andrew, he was a wrestler in high school. So when your body gets used to your weights fluctuating up and down, I think now he's starting to settle into where he's not trying to drop all that weight after football season. He's able to build his body up, but he looks tremendous. Some guys you wouldn't know. I mean, that's Case and Williams. I mean, to his credit, looks fantastic as well. He looks flexible and loose and confident and strong, and so I'm kind of excited to watch him run around today too. Again, with Kaysen is doing more with him than we ever have, where he was such just an isolated receiver, on the single receiver side for us a year ago. To get him ingrained in the offense, you're going to see him much more in the slot for us this year than he ever was, and I think that will be really conducive to his game because he's got a very high football IQ.
What are the next?
Wait and see a little, Sophie. I mean, we know what he can do, and I think he'll be even better at it. But we've brought some guys in I think will be pretty good too, and some guys that redshirted last year. So it's going to take some time. We talked about that as a staff. We're going to have to put these guys in some real live kick return situations to where maybe you didn't do as much of that in a training camp before because the fear of injury. But we're going to have to put some of these guys in some real live return situations to see how good they really are. I know what Kaysen is from that aspect of it, but there's other guys, Jadon Mickens, Marcus Peters, Kendall Taylor, those types of guys that I need some information for it to tell me that they're not as good or better than Kaysen in varying areas.
What are the next steps for Austin to kind of dominate a game from tight end?
Consistency. His ability to really do things right at the level of capability that he's capable of, and that's really high. His is different than other guys. He's set a bar. His bar has been set differently than others, and fortunately for him, but unfortunately, he's the one that set the bar there because we've seen glimpses of how good he really can be, and now it's down after down after down. And the cool thing about Austin, he's a very, very mature young man. He recognizes it. He's working at it extremely hard, but that's ultimately the challenge: is down after down after down, and not those lapses at times where he might take, drift off and take some plays off. And we can help that as well and get him involved in things maybe earlier or more consistently. So, and we're going to need him to. He's one of the guys that we're hopeful can continue to grow and to take some of those touchdowns that Jermaine and Devin and Chris had last year.
Is there any more of an unsettling feeling, especially an offensive coach, to go into a season with offensive line?
That's every year. I mean, the year when you return to 5 guys that started every game for you last year, those are few and far between. You're going to have question marks, and you're going to deal with it. And that's why you want to continually try to recruit the players and the personnel that fit your scheme, that fit your style, so that when they get in and when they get their opportunity, they can excel. So I don't feel like I'm in uncharted waters here. That's just the nature of the beast in college football. We don't get to sign guys to 8-year NFL contracts. We get constant turnover, and you lose 25, and here comes a new group of guys that you need to get ready. And as guys mature, they get better along the way in between.
Have you had to do any pre-planning or adjusting with the continued flexibility in the scheduling as far as games where they fall? Is that
we have it all mapped out and planned out, and we've gone all the way through. We know the days we're practicing, what time from now until the Apple Cup, and you just be as flexible as you can. You got short weeks in there, you got long weeks, you got short weeks where you're traveling back-to-back weeks, and you just have to be as flexible as you can and ultimately think about the players and not about the coaches, thinking what's going to give the players the best chance to be successful come game time. And it's not about us, it's totally about them and what do we need to do for them to get them prepared to play mentally and physically. And I think we've addressed it in a really cool way. We exhausted a lot of time on it to ensure ourselves of that because short weeks are difficult. Long weeks at times can be difficult too, and we have both of those and we have to deal with them.
So you talked about Drew Schaefer getting some reps with left tackle. Is there anyone else you kind of toyed with the idea of giving them reps in other positions?
Well, there's not yet. There'll be some things that we're going to tinker with here. Potential of a couple guys possibly kind of doing both way duties to get us some depth at some positions that aren't quite where they need to be from the depth standpoint. Tight end being one of those. You look at, obviously we feel great about Austin, Michael, and Evan. We made the move of Josh Perkins to kind of an H-back tight end type spot to get us some depth there. But we're going to look at a few other guys from the defensive side of the ball that maybe can kind of both sides of the ball duty so that we have the depth. So if a guy gets nicked up in a game, somebody can step in and help us out there. So there'll be some of that going on, but nothing of that big of a significance.
Steve, it's not a real sexy thing that people talk about, but you did lose your kicker and punter from
Right.
last year. How much does that kind of keep you up in there right now?
That's, again, one of the bigger question marks. Probably, for me, we've had a really good luxury of what we've had from our specialists the last 3 years, from the snappers to the punters to the kickers. And to replace all three of them in 1 year is a little unsettling, but I feel like we've identified people that are more than capable, and never mind replace them, but maybe even excel beyond. And whether that happens this year or the next, we'll see. But that one, it's a huge factor in the game, and I feel like we've addressed our special teams so much from year one till now, and we're so much better. We have so much more depth that I'm hopeful these guys can come right in and continue on that path that we're on. That they're very, very talented, but again, it's much more than talent at those two spots. There's some psyche involved in that we got to make sure that those guys feel great about what they're doing.
How much competition will there actually be?
Well, there'll be plenty. It's going to be ongoing. Nothing's done. There's no depth chart there right yet.
Last one, please.
What Coach talking to you about the national image of us? The last national image of us we have.
I don't know. That was last year. It's such a different deal. I would say that I'm not troubled by it. It's actually, if anything, been a positive. I think our guys, like I said earlier, have really come into this camp maybe with a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I think the perception is, Washington's pretty good. It's the number 10 team in the country that went toe-to-toe with, and hopefully we've improved from that. And this is what training camp's about, the season's about, to see if that holds true.
Steve, a lot's been made about the first half of the schedule and following up on that. Maybe is this team mentally tough enough to sort of weather that storm, or do you have to work on that this month and say, hey, we got right out of the gate?
Well, it's constantly talked about, of our mental toughness. And man, the day I sit up here in front of you guys, I say we're a mentally weak team, I'm in trouble. So I like to think that we kind of exude mental toughness, and we've dealt with a lot of adversity over 3 years, and we'll get faced with more along the way. What I do know is, we're not flying under the radar anymore, and teams have circled us on their schedules, and so you have to understand kind of where you are in the lay of the land, and that's where we're at. We're not sneaking up on anybody anymore, and we got to throw our best punch every Saturday if we want to win.